She was beaten, she was tied, and now she was left to die slowly, hanging from a tree in the middle of the dark forest. Emily Carter's wrists were torn raw by thick ropes, stretched wide apart on a heavy branch. Another rope dug into her neck, forcing her to push upward with her trembling arms or be strangled to death. Her bare feet dangled above the ground, toes clawing at the empty air, desperate for something solid to stand on. Blood smeared across her legs. It mixed with dirt. It mixed with sweat. Her knee was swollen, a deep red bruise spreading across the skin like a brand of suffering. Each gasp of air came with a rattling sound, shallow and broken. The night was silent, except for her sobs and the sound of the rope creaking with every movement. But Emily was not alone. In the shadows, leaning casually against another tree, stood Jack Malone. Once a respected rancher, now nothing more than a monster wrapped in human skin. His eyes glimmered with perverse delight, like a predator enjoying the slow death of its prey. Jack tilted a silver flask to his lips and took a long drink. He smirked as Emily strained against the ropes, her body shaken violently. "You see, Emily," he whispered with a calm, chilling voice, "this is not about killing you quickly. It is about watching you break, inch by inch, until your spirit is gone." He stepped closer, boots crunching on dry leaves, and traced a finger along the rope that cut into her neck. The contact made her flinch, her breathing sharper. Jack chuckled low, a sound that carried more cruelty than any shout. "This rope is my favorite. It tightens every time you lose strength. So fight. Keep fighting. I want to watch you struggle until there is nothing left." Emily's mind swirled with fear and pain. Her arms burned with fire as every muscle begged to collapse. Her throat screamed for air. Tears streamed down her dirt-streaked face. But Jack only leaned back with satisfaction, taking in every twitch, every gasp, every broken plea. Hours dragged on. The moon shifted across the sky while Emily clung to life with what little strength she had left. Her body swung slightly from side to side like a broken doll on display. Jack never looked away. He crouched on a log, sharpening a knife, humming a tuneless song. His eyes locked on her misery. At times he laughed softly, shaking his head as if watching a theater show designed for his pleasure. Other times he muttered to himself, "She thought she could leave me. She thought she could walk away." But no one leaves Jack Malone. Emily's lips cracked as she whispered for mercy, though she knew none would come. Jack rose again, his shadow stretching across her fragile form. He placed his hand under her chin, lifting her face toward him, his touch cold and cruel. "You look beautiful like this," he said, his voice dripping with poison, fragile, helpless. "Mine?" Emily's heart raced with terror, but somewhere deep inside her burned a flicker of defiance. She wanted to scream, but her voice broke into silence. Still, Jack saw it in her eyes, the faint spark that refused to die, and that only fueled his obsession further. "Do not give up yet," he said, stepping back, his grin widening. "I want to see the exact moment you surrender. That is the sweetest part." The night dragged into dawn. Her body trembled uncontrollably, every breath sharper than the last. The ropes cut deeper into her skin, leaving marks that would never fade. She had survived the night, but her strength was nearly gone. The question hung heavy in the air. Would anyone come for her before Jack's twisted game reached its end? Emily's arms were on fire. Her whole body shook like it was ready to give up. She thought this was the end. And then she heard it. The sound of boots crunching against dry leaves, slow, steady steps coming closer through the trees. For a moment, her heart stopped. Was it Jack returning to finish his twisted game, or had someone really come into this cursed forest at the break of dawn? Out of the shadows walked William Dawson. Folks around town called him Will. He was nearly 50, broad-shouldered, weathered by years under the sun, and carried himself with the calm of a man who had seen too much. Will was not a saint, but he had a stubborn streak that made him step in when no one else would. When his eyes landed on Emily hanging from that branch, he froze. It hit him like a bullet to the chest. This was not just cruelty. This was evil. He dropped his rifle to the ground and rushed forward. "Hold kid," he muttered, cutting at the ropes with his hunting knife. Emily gasped as the tension on her neck gave way, her body collapsing into his arms. Her breath came in desperate gulps, and for the first time all night, she felt air fill her lungs without pain. Will held her steady. "Easy now. You're safe. I've got you." His voice was rough, but there was kindness in it. The kind that makes you believe it. But safety never lasts long out here. The crack of a gunshot split the morning air. Bark flew from the tree just inches from Will's head. Jack Malone had returned, gun in hand, fury in his eyes. "Put her down, Dawson." Jack sneered from the tree line. "She belongs to me." Will did not waste time with words. He shoved Emily behind him, drew his revolver, and fired back. The bullet slammed into the dirt by Jack's boots, forcing him to dive for cover. "Run!" Will whispered to Emily as he pulled her toward his horse tied nearby. She was weak, barely able to stand, but the urgency in his voice drove her forward. Another shot rang out. Will grunted as the bullet grazed his side, tearing through fabric and skin. Pain burned hot, but he kept moving. He swung Emily onto the saddle and mounted behind her. The horse reared, then charged through the forest trail as more bullets cracked behind them. Branches whipped past, the morning air filled with smoke and dust. Emily clung to Will, tears mixing with sweat, her heart pounding with fear and relief all at once. Behind them, Jack's voice echoed through the trees, a howl of rage that promised he would not stop, not until she was his again. But Emily knew something Jack did not. She had escaped him once, and this time she would rather die than return to his grasp. What would happen when Jack's obsession drove him to chase them across the wild frontier? The horse raced down the trail, hooves pounding like thunder in the empty woods. Will held the reins tight with one hand, the other pressed against his bleeding side. Every bump of the saddle sent fire through his ribs, but he pushed on. Stopping was not an option. Emily clung to him, her face pressed against his chest. Behind them, Jack's furious shouts echoed through the trees. Gunfire snapped in the distance, but the bullets fell short. Will leaned close to her ear. "Hold steady, Key. We just need to put some miles between us and that bastard." Branches whipped across their clothes. The horse's breath came hot, steam rising in the cool morning air. Finally, the forest grew quiet. Will pulled the reins and slowed the animal. The trail opened into a clearing. He slid down first, groaning as his boots hit the dirt. Blood soaked the side of his shirt. Still, he managed a crooked grin. "Bullet only kissed me. I will live." Emily followed, her legs quivering as her feet touched the ground. She looked at him with wide, tear-stained eyes. "You shouldn't have risked your life for me." Will frowned, lowering himself onto a fallen log. "That is foolish talk. I could not leave you hanging there. No man with a soul could." Her voice fell, heavy with shame. "You do not understand. Jack Malone was not just a stranger. He was mine once. I loved him, or thought I did." Will's eyes narrowed. He leaned closer, listening. "At first he was gentle," she said. "Then I saw the truth. His cruel games and the way he laughed when I begged him to stop. He fed on suffering. When I ran, I thought I was free, but he hunted me down, and now he wants to finish what he started." Will spat into the dirt, anger flashing across his weathered face. "So that is why he will not quit. He does not see you as a person, only something he owns." He shook his head. "Men like that do not love. They only destroy." Emily dropped her gaze, tears streaking her cheeks. "I would rather die than ever go back." Will placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Then we make sure you never do. Not while I'm breathing." For a moment, the woods were quiet. The two of them sat side by side, battered and bruised, yet bound together by the fire of survival. They both knew this was not the end. Jack Malone was still out there, and he was not done hunting. And friend, if you want to see how this fight plays out, stick with us. Hit that subscribe so you will not miss the next part. Because when darkness falls on the ranch, Jack Malone will return, and the devil himself will be waiting at their door. Because Jack is not finished yet, and he is closer than you think. The night fell heavy on the Dawson Ranch. The lanterns burned low, and the wind rattled the old shutters. Emily sat by the table, her hands trembling as she wrapped a strip of cloth around Will's wounded side. He tried to act tough, giving her that half smile of his. "Do not fuss, me girl. I have had worse from a bar fight in Abilene, but she saw the sweat on his brow, the way his body shook with pain. Will Dawson was hurt bad, and both of them knew it. Then came the sound, a faint crunch of gravel outside, slow, deliberate steps moving across the yard. Emily froze. Will reached for his revolver, his hand unsteady. "Stay quiet," he whispered. The door creaked open, and there he was. Jack Malone stepped inside, his face half hidden in shadow, a grin stretching across it like he owned the room. "Well now," Jack drawled, his voice smooth and twisted, "I figured I would find you here. Did you really think you could steal her away from me, Dawson?" Will raised his revolver, but his injured arm shook. Jack fired first. The shot slammed into Will's shoulder, spinning him back against the wall. Emily screamed as he crumpled to the floor, blood spreading fast. Jack walked in slow, savoring every step, his pistol aimed steady. "Do not worry, Emily. I ain't gonna kill him quick. Men like him deserve to suffer. Just like you did." Emily's heart pounded in her chest. She looked at Will, barely conscious, struggling to lift his gun, and then she looked at Jack, the man she once thought she loved, now a devil in human skin. Something inside her snapped. Her fear burned away, replaced with a fire hotter than anything she had ever felt. She grabbed the nearest thing she could reach, a heavy iron lamp from the table. With a scream that tore from the depths of her soul, Emily swung with all her strength. The lamp smashed into Jack's skull with a sickening crack. His grin disappeared in an instant, his eyes wide with shock as he stumbled back. Emily did not stop. Years of pain, nights of terror, every bruise, every scar, every moment of humiliation fueled her. She struck again and again until Jack Malone lay still on the floor, blood pooling beneath him. Her chest heaved, tears and sweat dripping down her face. For the first time in years, she was free. Will's weak voice broke the silence. "Emily, it's over." But was it really over? Emily stood over the body of Jack Malone, her chest heaving, her hands still trembling from the blows she'd struck. The silence of the ranch was heavy, broken only by the faint crackle of the lantern light. For the first time, she felt the weight of his shadow lift from her shoulders. The man who had tormented her, who had stolen her freedom, who had tried to break her spirit, was gone, and she had been the one to end it. She dropped the iron lamp, her fingers raw, and hurried to Will's side. He was pale, bleeding, but alive. His eyes opened as she knelt beside him, and a tired smile crept across his face. "You saved me, Emily," he whispered. "No," she said, tears streaming down her face. "We saved each other." As the first light of dawn crept through the cracks of the old ranch house, Emily helped Will onto his feet. Together they stepped outside into the wide open land that stretched farther than the eye could see. The air was cool, the horizon painted gold by the rising sun. It was a new day, not just for them, but for what they had chosen to believe in. That no matter how broken, no matter how much pain someone carried, there was always a chance to fight back, to stand tall again, to reclaim life from the hands of darkness. Emily looked out across the prairie, her hand resting gently on Will's arm. She had been a victim. Now she was something more, a survivor. And with Will by her side, she knew she would never face the world alone again. And maybe that is the lesson that we are meant to take, that even in the harshest places, even when evil seems stronger, the human spirit can rise. But what about you? If you were in Emily's place, would you have found the strength to fight back, or would you have let despair take you? This story reminds us that courage does not come easy, and it does not come without pain. It comes in the darkest hour, when giving up feels easier. And yet we refuse to let go. So if this journey moved you, if you felt Emily's fight and Will's courage deep inside your chest, give this story a like right now. And subscribe so you will not miss the next tale from the Wild West, where survival, justice, and love clash under the burning sun. Because out here on the frontier, every ending is just the start of another story.